I was a serial monogamist for a good portion of my life. I would be in a relationship with one person for about the same amount of time, and then we would break up, and I'd be single for about the same amount of time, and then bam, right into the next relationship, on and on and on and on.
Hello, and welcome to SITUASEANS Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Michael Williams, aka seanydoo. You can call me Sean, seanydoo. Does not matter to me. I'm just glad that y'all are here. And I have a wonderful guest here, Allyiseman. She is glad that you are here.
That's true.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. You know, we got to give like a little bit of a quick, I guess kind of go all the way the fuck off moment. So I have like this catchphrase, go all the way the fuck off, because it's like the more full send version of like go off, you know?
My version of that is I don't half-ass anything. It's just full ass. Just
I like
full
that.
Ass.
Full ass. That's a t-shirt. And speaking of go all the way the fuck off, get your go all the way the fuck off t-shirts. You'll see it pop up right here. Go to situationspodcast.com, click on the merch tab. So yeah, this is our, 50th episode. Woo!
Nice.
and as part of this 50th episode, we're gonna be talking about some, like the E&M culture, the polyamorous culture, and so many more about that. Sex, dating, relationships, all that. You are in for a treat for episode 50. Yeah, and also we're gonna be kind of just talking about just ways to even open up a relationship if that's something that you might want to explore. So we'll be talking about that as well. And Allie, she is a certified relationship coach and non-monogamy nerd. So you're gonna get a lot from her.
Oh yeah.
I want to know, how did you get into this world? Where did it all start?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. I'll try and make that succinct as possible. For me, I was a serial monogamist for a good portion of my life. And what that meant was I would be in a relationship with one person for about the same amount of time, and then we would break up, and I'd be single for about the same amount of time, and then bam, right into the next relationship, on and on and on and on. And I kind of figured out that there was something a little bit different about me, because I never really understood the bad rap that jealousy got. Because when I heard about, when my partners shared their previous relationships or their fantasies or things like that, it got me excited. It turned me on. It made me want. It didn't upset me. And that wasn't necessarily the case coming the other direction. So I thought that's what jealousy was. I didn't have words like compersion, which is what's commonly referred to as the opposite of jealousy. It's when you experience joy or pleasure by hearing about or seeing your partner experience joy or pleasure with someone else. So think about it like empathetic joy, basically. Yeah. And so that's what I was experiencing, and that's what kind of had me broach the topic to my boyfriend at the time. Hey, maybe can we open up? What do you think? And we settled on we can have a threesome with another woman. This happened in 2 relationships, never really occurred. And then in what became my last monogamous relationship, we tried to open up. He was on the road a lot for work. I would join him when I could, but wasn't always able to be there. So I was like, you know what? When you're out one time, you connect with somebody on the road, just, send me a picture consensually and have fun, and then tell me about it afterwards. Yeah. And he had that opportunity. They just stayed up all night talking. It was great, whatever. We were, moving on. And then I had a friend come to town another time, and this was somebody I had a history with. They were safe, very much just a friend. My partner gave me his, what he called his green light. And my friend and I had an amazing night. And unfortunately, when I came to my partner to share everything with him, it was, I was so excited. I felt so in love and so connected. But my partner kind of imploded. And he's like, I can't believe you did it. Wait a minute. We agreed on this thing. Right. So all that to say, it was a very rough landing. But what I figured out was this is real for me. I need to explore this. And I don't want any more emotional casualties on my conscience. So I was like, let me start doing this single and see where this goes. That was back in 2016.
Okay. Wow. So yeah, you've like come a long way, you know?
Oh yeah. I wish I knew then what I know now, but that's why I do what I do, because I didn't have a resource like me. You know, I learned everything the hard way, so you don't have to.
Yes. And speaking of which, like, yeah, you have a brand in a business that you're the CEO of, Passport to Pleasure.
Yeah.
You know, like definitely elaborate about that and tell like the audience, you know, kind of what that is and, you know, how they can kind of get in touch.
Sure. So Passport to Pleasure, it's passport, the number 2pleasure.com. It's on all the social platforms across the board, Substack, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, depending on what that situation is when this airs, all of the above. And it's, for all intents and purposes, it's a relationship education platform. So what that means is there's all kinds of resources on the website, everything from courses to, you know, PDFs and tools that can help you understand your relationship orientation, what your needs are, so you can actually design a relationship that works for you.
Yeah. Wow.
Because relationships are, that's a skill set. Relating is a skill set.
It is. It really is. And like, yeah, communication is just so important in relationships, especially like, yeah, even like in polyamorous and ethnically like non-monogamous relationships. I feel like communication is even more like, you know, important because of those different dynamics. Yeah,
absolutely. That's why I say, like, even if you know, once you learn about all the relationship styles that are actually available and you determine, you know what, actually monogamy is the one for me, just learning about all of them and learning the skills and tools that you need through exploring consensual non-monogamy, or I should say just learning about consensual non-monogamy, still supports monogamous relationships because it's all the same skills, all the same communication techniques, etc. It will only strengthen even your monogamous relationship to learn about consensual non-monogamy.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. That's very powerful. Like I know for a fact, like our listeners are like, oh my goodness, like, okay, like I feel like I have like, you know, like kind of like the tools and even just like a person that I can kind of count on that kind of help me through that journey. So I would not be surprised if you get some more, you know, clients and stuff like that. Be like, Allie, help me out.
I got you.
Yeah. And so, you know, even just, you know, like, of course, like at the time of this, like the recording and everything, like, you know, being like in LA and everything, just helping so many people out. Like, cause I know like your brand is everywhere. You help people all around the world, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I guess kind of just even in the LA scope, kind of just like, you know, narrowing it down, like even like just being out here in LA, like how long were you in LA?
Well, I've been based in LA now for just about 18 years. I'm originally from the East Coast, from a little state called Maryland, or as I used to pronounce it, Merlin, like the wizard. But yeah, I moved out to LA by way of Philly, where I went to school in 2007. Yeah. So yeah.
Wow.
Hot minute ago.
And yeah, and even just in LA in general, like were there like favorite things about the city that just really reeled you in?
Absolutely. I mean, the weather. I had enough of snow. I'm good. I can visit. Don't want to live there. Don't need to. Yeah, I love just being near the water. I come from, you know, Maryland. There's multiple kinds of water culture there. So being close to a body of water is very important to me, but so many things I love about LA. There's access to, I'm very outdoorsy, and there's access to all kinds of different outdoor experiences. I can go, you know, an hour or two north to snow if I want, or mountains. I can go 10 minutes down the street and I can hike through mountains. There's desert, there's the ocean. There's just so many different kinds of terrain and just natural elements to explore. That I love. I love that. And I love the accessibility of being in or near a city. I've always lived, for the most part, I've lived in like a beach town. So I have the accessibility of a city, but then I'm right there by the water. I'm right by the hikes, all of that. What I love about LA is, yes, it's very sprawling. This is a massive city. It just keeps going. You'll be flying over it for 20 minutes when you're coming in. But because of that, it has such a diverse array of neighborhoods. And like each neighborhood has its own little personality, and each neighborhood is very walkable in its own space. And so I really feel that for the most part, LA has something for everyone. You just have to know kind of which area is like your spot or your spots. I've always loved that. It's such a diverse, incredibly creative city.
It is. It is. I had heard jokingly from like friends out here that like, oh yeah, people in LA, they don't want to date because everyone's out here busy pursuing their content creator careers. I'm like, I kind of see that.
I don't know why they're mutually exclusive. I mean, it's all about priorities, right? Like, what are the things that are important to you in your life, and have you created a schedule and a life that supports the things that are important to you? You can do both.
Yeah, exactly. Both can be true. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And even just like whether it's like from your friends or like clients or like in general, like what's like your thoughts about the dating scene out here in LA?
LA is like a microcosm in so many ways. Like I said, there's so much diversity. I mean that in like the real sense of the word. Is like there's just so many kinds, which to me is exciting, because in the same way that I feel like so many, all these different neighborhoods, all these different kinds of food, so many cultures coming together, there's ideally someone here for everyone, right? So we've also seen just such a transition to the digital space, but now because we've been so inundated with the last, the expanse of COVID and the pandemic and the quarantine and all that, people have sort of imploded on the app side of things, and they want that, IRL, that in real life connection, going to events, meeting people, feeling the static energy between you. So that's really cool to see the vibrancy of LA come back in that way. I mean, we'll see how things go with these fires and, how we're going to recover. I think we're seeing an incredible surge in just the power of community here in Los Angeles, which just fills my heart. What's possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I definitely agree with you in that, because it does, like, LA does have like so many different cultures, and just like it's such a vibe out here, and people, this is a community. It really does speak volumes for sure.
I like to say LA is like, it was two ways of saying it. It's the biggest small town, or it's the smallest big city. Like it has that small town vibe where it's like when you find your people, that's your community, and you can build it like that. But it's massive at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess even like kind of on the other side of the coin, is in the E&M community, like, what are your thoughts about that out here in LA specifically? Are there like certain trends or?
Yeah, I mean, that's another, it extends to that too. It's incredible to be in a city like this, because we have the same amount of diversity within the E&M poly space as well. There's so many different communities, parties, events, just styles of this that are available because it's such a big city. So there really is something for everyone. So when people are first stepping into this space or exploring and wanting to connect with other people, going to events, I always encourage, go to some very different events. Because don't just go to one and be like, ooh, that wasn't for me. Maybe E&M isn't for me. And I don't know. There's so many different kinds of spaces here. Get a feel for what's out there and kind of learn what you're into, what you're not. You don't have to like everyone or every event or like everything. There's a lot of different flavors in this space.
Absolutely. And even just like, in like a year or even like a year prior, kind of just exploring like the E&M community, I guess in my own relationship, I've like, in the past when I was in relationships, they were all like, monogamous. So never really tried or like, to like open it up like that. But when I was just, just dating as a single guy, I was like, okay, well, you know what? I want to kind of just explore and just see, what's out there. Cause it's like, just hearing from like other people that were in that space kind of just intrigued me to like kind of pursue that. And I was like, okay, well, like, how does one get into that? And like, I had like, was listening to this podcast called You Up with, yeah. And I remember they were like running ads, or even in a couple episodes, they were talking about this app Field. I was what? I was like, what is Field? So just, immediately downloaded that. And then, I got to like kind of, connect with other people, like just from all different backgrounds, all different like, relationships types, and it was a good experience, like for me. And it was different because being, I guess, the outsider going into somebody else's dynamic, that wasn't like a first for me, I guess, as far as like just like my own like history or whatever. But it was a first like doing that meeting on the app, Because I can only think like, because I know for a fact before that, you want to get in the situation exclusive or whatever.
We're getting intimate. We're getting intimate today.
Exactly. There were like only like a very like handful of like threesomes or even like foursomes that I was like a part of, just whether it was just like my wild college days or just, through like a friend of a friend had put me onto somebody and then like, met somebody else. So it was just like, yeah, it was like, I had never like tried in like, I guess, exploring the community via like a dating app. And so it was a whole new thing for me. And I was like, wow, okay. And I almost feel like people are more honest on field than like, the other traditional like dating apps. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on that as far as like that?
Yeah. I mean, I've got a couple questions I want to ask you too. Is that allowed? Is that allowed?
I'm an open book.
Cool. Well, just to answer your question, I think there's more openness, I would say, on apps like Field. And Field is kind of the OG in a lot of ways. It's the most well-known in the mainstream space, but there are a number of E&M, poly, social, and dating apps. They'll have events and stuff that you can attend listed. They're really, really great resources. Highly recommend, because it's not just app, right? Like you can use the app to see, oh, there's a local event happening by me. I'm going to go to that and meet people in person. But I say that openness more so than, what was the word? Did you say honest?
Yeah.
I think you said more honest.
Yeah, people are more honest. Yeah.
So I'm trying to think how to phrase this. So it's been really exciting to experience the surge in public interest in this in the last few years, especially. It's become a more accepted conversation, at least. There's still a lot of myths and misconceptions and pushback, but I feel like we're making a lot of progress in that it's becoming, at least the conversation is becoming a little bit more normalized. But that doesn't necessarily mean just that, the amount of curiosity isn't being met by the amount of learning at the same time. So there can be a lot more people that are coming onto apps like Field that are throwing around words like E&M and poly who don't really know what that means or aren't really practicing some really important foundational components of that. They're just kind of using these terms like a lot of people you'll see new people, or we call them tourists who aren't really doing in there. They'll use E&M or non-monogamous as a synonym for casually dating. Those don't mean the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So things like that. So to say, that's why I use the distinction of maybe there's more openness because it's an app that celebrates like, hey, this is what I'm into. This is what I'm looking for. There's a lot of directness on that app, which I appreciate. But you have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt because it has become so inundated and there's so many more people on it now from the mainstream space. So really, if you're going on dates through that app, lean on having a lot of questions on that first date. What does E&M mean to you? What are your current relationship agreements?
Yeah.
How did you find yourself here? That kind of stuff to make sure you're kind of both on the same page and really understand what those words mean.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember like one time that I was like a third in somebody's dynamic and I guess like, they were together for about I think like 3 or 4 years, but long story short, the guy in that dynamic, he was able to, I guess have other connections or whatever. But whenever, his girlfriend, like his partner was having connections, like, yeah, he would get very like jealous or just kind of like, well, I think I need to be there or whatever. But whenever he was going off, he was like, no, I want to do this alone. I don't want you. So it was a little bit of like kind of like a miscommunication, going on, and it kind of made it a little bit difficult for the two of them. But when I had came into that, I had sat down with both of them. I had we went on maybe like a couple of like outings or I guess dates or whatever, just to make sure like the vibe and everything was had checked out. But I want to say maybe somewhere, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 months in, what happened was this guy had really had a deep connection with somebody else that he was seeing and ended up leaving like his girlfriend for the other person. And yeah, she, it definitely took it, she definitely took it very hard. I felt so bad, cause I'm just like it's so, I was just like, wow, like the double standard, the fact that he was able to, pretty much live freely or fuck freely and then, kind of put her in a box was just very very triggering. Yeah.
It's controlling and it's sexist is what that is.
Yeah.
That is not equitable. So there's a lot in what you just said that I want to address and dive into.
Yeah.
'Cause this is kind of what I'm talking about, where it's like, oh yeah, we're E&M. The E is ethical, and there's, CNM is something you'll hear, and I usually use CNM, consensual non-monogamy, because who gets to say what's ethical, what's not? Inherently, it's about equity. So it's not about making anyone do anything just because you want to or you don't. That's controlling. We get to decide, the difference between boundaries and control is boundaries are, what I'm going to do, and control is telling somebody else what to do, right? So an example is you don't get to tell your partner who they can and can't sleep with. You get to decide if you want to be with a partner who sees other people or not. Right. Does that make sense, that difference?
Absolutely, yeah.
So all that to say, at the same time, you might have a slightly different relationship orientation than your partner. So let's use this example. Maybe she didn't mind. She didn't feel the need to be there, during his outings and stuff like that. But he felt the need to be there, and that helped him maybe process some of his jealousy, and they had an agreement around that. That's not what I was hearing, and what you were saying, it sounded a bit less thought out and a bit less mutual, which unfortunately is common when people don't have the tools or really understand what they're doing. Like, first of all, it's okay to be jealous. Yeah. Totally fine. Totally normal. Jealousy is not inherently wrong or unhealthy or anything like that. It's about how you deal with jealousy. Polyamorous people, non-monogamous people feel jealousy too. We just see it as a tool for personal growth, and it can actually be a tool to deepen intimacy and trust in a relationship as well, when you see it as something to use for that. But that kind of way of saying, okay, well, I get to do this, but you don't get to. It has to be a mutual conversation. I don't get, if I need to see other people and I'm non-monogamous and that's my relationship orientation, but my partner doesn't feel that need. They actually are very happy being in a monogamous relationship, and they're happy being in a monogamous relationship with someone who's non-monogamous. I don't get to force them to date other people any more than they get to force me not to.
Right.
It's about deciding what kind of partnership you're okay with and interested in.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's really valid. I'm so glad. See, this is why I'm glad that you're here.
I love talking about this stuff.
Debunking all of the misconceptions or rumors. Yeah. You're literally like doing a service here for us. Trying to improve your skincare game? Guess what? I got a little something for you. You can improve the health of your skincare with the Vogue approved. Yes, you heard that right. Vogue as in Vogue magazines, the models. Yes, that Vogue. The Vogue approved beauty product, Herbal Face Food, the most potent anti-aging, multi-correction skincare product on the market. Yes. So hit that link in the show notes or video description and use our code SPHFF to get 20% off at checkout. Visit herbalfacefood.com to get started. That's herbalfacefood.com. All right. And use code S as in Sam, P as in pineapple, H as in Henry, F as in Frank, F as in Frank to get 20% off at checkout. That's SPHFF to get 20% off. All right. herbalfacefood.com. Okay. Y'all got the hookup. So let them know that SITUASEANS podcast sent you. All right. And what I've also noticed too, kind of just like a somewhat of a tangent, but even on field in the past, I had noticed even like because you had mentioned we're starting to see more people know about the community, more know about field and are coming to the app. When I was like seriously on that app, I had noticed that there were people on there that was like saying, oh well, I'm looking for a relationship or even like a single partner relationship. I was just like, but you're on field.
Yeah. What did you bump up against? Like, what did it mean to you to see somebody who was saying, I'm interested in monogamy? Is that what you're saying? Like they're looking for a monogamous partner?
Yeah, exactly. And so I was just like, I definitely understand that, but I'm just kind of just like, like in my own experience, I was like, well then like, why not try like, Hinge or, Coffee Meets Bagel or okay Cupid? I mean, I can definitely see that they can find a partner on field, like, like not going against that. But it did stand out to me because I was like, well, I thought the field was more so for the people that want to explore other dynamics outside of monogamy.
Well, I'd be interested in what else was in their profile. It's not just relationship dynamics that people are exploring on field.
Yeah.
It might have been like, looking for a monogamous partner who's interested in going to high protocol kink fetish events with me in full leather. That's not as commonly seen on Hinge. So there might be special sexual interests that they want to make sure that they're compatible with a new partner on. And field is like you said, it's a much more open platform. So it's exciting to see the mainstream apps like, Hinge and Bumble are putting more relationship structure options in there. Like you can choose non-monogamous, polyamorous and stuff like that now, which is amazing. And it's also, to me, very exciting to see people that are looking for, all kinds of relationships, including monogamy on field. Because to me, it's not a conversation about, monogamy versus non-monogamy, which one's better. It's about really helping people understand the whole scope of relationship dynamics and what's available to them so they can actually build relationships that work for them. And for some people, that might be monogamy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I wish like the person's profile, just from what I could recall, I wish that, it had more context because it was just literally just looking just for like my forever partner. Like that was pretty much it, very vague. And so I was just like, wait, it really threw me off. So I'm glad that, even just hearing it from your side of a point of view that, they could be, out there, looking for someone who has maybe a certain dynamic or a certain kink. So again, like to the listeners that are listening and watching, if you're on field and you kind of come across a case like that, this is us encouraging you to explore that and get more context.
Yeah,
you never know.
Exactly, and like I always like to say that the terminology, the labels, polyamory, monogamy, non-monogamy, those are conversation starters, not the end of the sentence. So even if somebody's got polyamory or, monogamous or whatever on their profile, if you're going on a date with them, it's a great thing to talk about on that first date. Like, so I saw in your profile, it said E&M. What does that mean to you? Are you partnered or are you looking for an E&M dynamic? What does E&M mean to you? Because things, there's overall structures, but things can have a different subtle meaning to different people. Just in the same way that we, have different definitions for different terms. Something I work on with a lot of couples that come to me is something I call compound meanings. Culturally, we will kind of merge like casually dating and non-monogamous, not synonyms, but we'll merge things like that. Love, sex, and commitment, not synonyms.
Yeah.
So really understanding what these terms mean. Cheating. What is cheating to you? Where's that line? Does your partner or partners have the same line? Do they understand it in the same way you do? That's why I say these words are conversation starters. Really, really get curious.
Yeah.
See what it means to them.
Absolutely. No, that definitely helps. And so, being like a certified relationship coach and even just like, a non-monogamy nerd. I love that. I want to know, like, as far as like just like the clients that you've helped, so you help clients all over the world. Like, are there like clients in certain regions or just certain areas that you notice? Oh, I don't know. Example: people in the Midwest probably need my help more than people in LA, or I don't know. Like, is there any trends like that?
I'm gonna think, like, reviewing my clients. Where is everyone? It's let's put it this way. The singles study that, Match.com funds each year through the Kinsey Institute. The latest one returned the stat. I love stats. That's why I'm a nerd. I love numbers. Returned the stat that I think it was a little over a third of the population has at some point been in a consensually non-monogamous relationship or curious to try it or something. So it's not a small subset of society. We just don't see it represented anywhere near the level that people are actually participating and interested in. So I have clients from all over, from the Midwest, folks that you would, just be surprised potentially. And maybe they feel like they're the only ones, and maybe they are, probably not. But the only ones in their town, or there's no resources where they are. So they have to seek out support online, that kind of a thing, which I'm very proud of them for doing. It takes a lot.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to take that step. But I can't say that there's right now per se, like this state or like something like that. It's more and more, and I get delighted, just I get to talk to people all over from all different backgrounds. And it's such a treat because again, like what we're talking about, where we all come from slightly different understandings of things. So like, I'm still learning. I'm always going to be learning. I just have, almost a decade of experience in this behind me. So I always like to reference a quote that's been attributed to one of my inspirations, Esther Perel. There's no such thing as an expert. There's just somebody who's dedicated a lot more concentrated time to one topic than most people. So I love relationship dynamics. So not only have I been exploring consensual non-monogamy, but I have been immersed in studying it, getting my certification, et cetera. So I still get to learn with these clients coming from all their different perspectives. I'll share with them, I'll ask them questions, and they'll reflect something back to me that'll be like, wow, that's incredible. I have never heard anyone kind of translate it that way. That's so interesting. And so I get to grow with my clients as well, which is really fun.
That's amazing. And so can you kind of share with us kind of like, what does a session look like with you when you're meeting with your clients?
Yeah, I think an important distinction, people understandably so can confuse therapy with coaching, or, education or mentorship with coaching. These are all very distinct relationship agreements, just like the different romantic relationship agreements we have. So a big distinction is therapy to coaching. Therapy generally stays looking at the past, really working through emotions, is focused on finding some sort of diagnosis, potentially looking at pathology, whereas coaching is really about, looking at the present. Maybe we look at the past a little bit to see, patterns that got you here, but then really making choices and making changes in the now, in the present, to build the future that you want to move towards. So it's really, really about action and the now into the future, not so much about the past.
Love that. Love that so much. Yeah. So yeah, you're literally just out here helping so many people. And so, you've been featured in so many publications, of course, so, we definitely have to plug these because this is amazing. New York Times, Cosmo, Well and Good, Yahoo, Pure Wow, so many podcasts, and just more. And I just want to know, as far as you just helping so many people try to communicate and find how they can be open and get into that environment. Do you think more couples have become more open to the E&M environment as the years go on? Have you noticed okay, more people want to do this?
I would say there's a higher concentration of public interest, meaning that people have always been interested. Traditional relationships are non-monogamous. Monogamy is the new kid on the block. It's only about 10,000 years old. So all that to say, this has never not been here.
Yeah.
It's just sort of, how do we disseminate information? How do we share? What does representation look like? What is socially acceptable? So just because we, haven't seen a lot of public representation of this, or people being open about, being interested in this or trying it, doesn't mean it hasn't been there. Even now with a greater amount of public interest, there are still very, very real risks that people take on when they come out. I'm about as out as you can be at this point, but I have a lot of privilege, and that's why I chose to do this. I don't have kids. I'm not dependent on, I am set up to be pretty much okay. I work for myself. There are no legal protections when it comes to relationship orientation. So if you have, let's use an example. If you have an agreement with your spouse for whatever version of non-monogamy, and then, unfortunately, you decide divorce, maybe together you decide, or they do, or you do, that divorce is something that needs to happen now, and it can get a little ugly. They can say, you know what? They've been cheating. Look at all of this proof, da-da-da-da. Oh, but look, you can see our text, or we have a relationship agreement. Look, won't hold up.
Right. Yeah.
It can be used against you to lose your job, healthcare, housing, custody. There are real risks when you come out in this way. We're seeing change. There's a lot of incredible people in some organizations doing really powerful work, like Open, the organization Organization for Polyamory and Ethical Non-Monogamy. They're doing a lot of grassroots efforts, pushing through some really, really important, not legal protections. What is the word? Ordinances. So it's at a local, regional level, but that's step one, right? Then we can keep going, just getting a understanding. That's why I'm so passionate about education. Yeah. The resistance usually comes from ignorance and not really understanding this. It's about creating healthy, stable families.
Absolutely.
And partnerships at the end of the day.
And it would be so nice to just see like, more government funding, especially like around that. But, just given like the code, like the different, like the environment that we're currently in, it doesn't seem like, we'll be getting like that support at the government level. But yeah, you're so right. There does need to be protections against, those types of relationships and dynamics.
Well, and just really quick to reflect on that, we need to be responsible for our own education, and we don't have a society that sees relationships as relating as a skill set. There's sort of this unspoken assumption that you had parents probably, right? And they probably taught you, they were great examples of relationship, and they probably taught you some great communication skills. And so you should be fine. Make a relationship.
Right. It's like, what? It doesn't work like
how
that.
Often
right.
Is that true? So this is an actual skill set, and it's wild because people will go, oh, I just went to this amazing, professional communication. I learned how, command the room, own the meeting, like all these other types of communication. But then when it comes to, our sexual, romantic, intimate relationships, it's just like, oh, you should know how to do that.
Right.
It's a skill set. Relating with other people is a skill set. Mm-hmm. So regardless of dynamic, again, we have to take responsibility for our own, education and really developing the skills to create the relationships that we want and deserve. It's not going to come from the government. We have to do that.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's definitely a good point. And so what are some ways that I guess, couples that are thinking about approaching, non-monogamy, how can they kind of, I guess communicate or talk to each other about wanting to explore that, opening things up, and I guess even just discussing healthy boundaries?
Yeah, that's a really important question. That realization that, oh, this is something I'm curious about. I want to bring it up to my partner. Oh my God. What are they going to think? How are they going to react? Am I going to blow this up? Oh shoot, but this is real for me. I want to talk about it. Totally normal. All of that, totally normal. What I advise, and this is a question that people come to me all the time. I actually created a little tool that you can see on my website. It's a conversation template to help you kind of prepare and get ready for this. But whether you look at that or not, the key component to me is coming from curiosity, not conviction. So I'll say that again: curiosity, not conviction or coercion. So what I mean by that is, okay, great. You think you might be interested in consensual non-monogamy. I don't know how much you're actually familiar with that or what that means, or understanding your own hierarchy of exclusivity to determine your ideal relationship structure and how to go about that. But assuming you've just kind of heard about it and it's piqued your interest for whatever reason, you actually don't even know that you want to do this. You actually just want to learn more. So this initial conversation with your partner is really more about gauging kind of their temperature on it than it is about asking for something. So I would approach it as, hey, I heard about, this movie, this TV show, this book, this whatever, or even just, hey, I've heard this term, consensual non-monogamy or ethical non-monogamy. Have you heard about it? What do you think about it? What do you know about it? Kind of go from there and see how they're responding. And maybe there is a movie, and there are more and more, which is great. And maybe you guys read a book together, or maybe you watch a show together and you talk about it, but coming from curiosity rather than, I want to do this thing, when you don't even know what this thing is yet, not a great idea.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, there could be couples out there or partners out there that think, well, I'm so afraid, I want to talk to my partner about this, but I'm afraid that it's going to make or break our relationship. If I bring this up, he or she or they are going to be like, well, oh, so they must not love me enough. They must, I'm not enough for them.
Yeah.
How can somebody kind of ensure and make, and let the other person on the other end know, hey, I'm not saying that you're not enough. I was just, trying to just, bring something up that really piqued my interest and I thought would be something good for us to kind of explore.
Yeah, that's so common, that idea. We personalize it. Oh, well, if this, then it must mean this about me. Because we've been taught that love is this finite resource, right? That if somebody is attracted to somebody else even, then that must mean they don't love us. First of all, attraction is not love. That's not this. Those are different things. Sexual attraction and romantic attraction are two different things. So it's not a finite resource. I don't have to take 5 love points from this person to give to another person. If let's talk to somebody, do you have multiple kids? Which one's your favorite? Like, you can love multiple people in similar ways. So polyamory means literally many loves. So non-monogamy is a yes and experience, not an either or. We've been conditioned that it's either or, again, that it's a zero-sum game. But it's ideally a yes and. We have such an amazing connection. We're building something so beautiful. How can we expand this? Maybe we can learn things about ourselves that add into our relationship through connecting with other people. That's where the power of really negotiating your relationship agreements comes in, and determining what I call your IRS, your ideal relationship structure, so that you have guidelines that help you create that intentionally.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And even just different dynamics. Or I remember like another case that I have from like my own personal experience. You all are just getting all the tea. So my freshman year of college, before I got into like a relationship with somebody that I was dating, like the rest of like, my college years or whatever, who would then become like my wife or whatever, ex-wife now, long story. But anyway, so that my freshman year of college, I was just like a wild child. I was like, what? I'm far away from home because I'm from Chicago. I was like, I just want to just explore every dynamic there is. Like I want to, just get out there. And I remember I had a really good friend whose dad had owned like a sex club. And so I was like, wait, what is this? And so just learning about that. And, of course, me being like, clearly under the age of 21, managed to get like a fake ID, managed to get into the club. And let's just say I just had so many experiences that I never thought I would have had. But through that, I ended up encountering like a couple that were talking about like how they go to like a sex club like once or twice a month, and it was really healthy for their relationship. And I remember that interaction being like, wait a minute, like they can have fun with other people and be okay with it and then go to the club often, or even just, that was probably like the first time that I was really like exposed to like something, something like that. Cause like, yeah, you're like to your point earlier, it's, no one talks about this, or no one it really isn't taught or that there can be many loves. There's always just, so it was really like eye opening, but I don't know. That was just something that just really stood out to me, that just kind of just, it was a positive experience that made me more open to just so many other relationship types.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that you had that positive experience, because it doesn't always go that way, the initial experience, because a lot of people will jump in like you did, not really knowing what the fuck is going on. And sometimes that's not so great, but I'm really happy to hear that. And yeah, I want to be clear too. Sex clubs, sex parties, play parties is a term you'll hear too. You don't have to be non-monogamous to go to those.
Yeah, anybody.
Anybody. There are plenty of people. Like, I've been throwing private play parties for a long time. And we have all kinds of folks there. I mean, yeah, there's, solo people come to connect with new folks, meet friends, meet new lovers, whatever. There's partnered people. There's other constellations, other relationship dynamics, with multiple people. There's people who come to play only with their partner or partners and no one else. They just like being in the environment. There's couples who will come and not play with anyone, including each other. They just like being in that environment, meeting other people. They get all worked up and excited. Then they go home to play. So there's no like expectation just because you're going to a party or a club. That doesn't mean you don't have to do anything other than honor other people's boundaries, including your own.
Yeah.
There's no have to have sex or anything like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you do go to a sex club and you see somebody in the middle of something, don't interrupt that. That's it's not,
No.
unless they're like, hey, join us, whatever. You all talk or whatever and consent or whatever. But if you just see somebody in the middle of it, it doesn't mean, oh, they're fucking. That means I can just join the fun
Yes.
too. Yeah.
And just because you've seen, I mean, we could talk. This is a whole other episode. You know what? I'll leave it at this.
The do's and don'ts.
If you're curious, I do teach about this as well. I have a workshop that you can access on my website called Become a Play Party Pro. It takes you through all the nuts and bolts. If it's your first time going, or if you just started going but made some mistakes, it just tells you, busts all the myths and misconceptions, tells you what to expect, how to prepare. And if you've been going and are ready to start potentially hosting your own, I walk you through what that can look like as well. So it's a very comprehensive course. If you are curious about exploring these kinds of spaces, make sure to check that out on my site.
Love that. Yes. You see, you all are getting all the resources here. Like
That's the idea.
She has Venmo, okay, and Zelle, so shoot it over. No, but yeah, no, I think that is definitely so important. To have those, those resources to share with our listeners. Thank you so much for calling that out.
Yeah,
because I think it is important for people to kind of know, the ins and outs and the do's and don'ts, because even just being if someone is just an outsider that doesn't necessarily know how that environment works, yeah, I do think that there are ways that they can get educated, and I think by going to your site and even just working with you, that's a good way to.
Because the word travels very fast in this space, and this is not the mainstream world. This is a sex positive space, which has been created in response to a generally sex negative world. What that means is the mainstream space generally sees sex as something problematic, something to be shameful and, keep quiet behind closed doors. Sex positive accepts that sex is a part of life and should be celebrated and expressed and can be safe and consensual and delicious to explore and enjoy. So when you're in a totally different space, but you're used to operating this other way, these old habits can come back real easy, and you can make some pretty serious mistakes that, put you in a position you don't want to be in, potentially harm someone else, and get you barred for life. Because like I said, just because you're at one party, if you make a mistake that's, pretty not okay, that word is going to travel real fast, and you're not going to be able to get to other parties as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is invite based. So in the same way that if you were, interested in swimming, you don't just jump into the Pacific Ocean. You look for swimming lessons in your area. You find a local pool. There are steps to get yourself ready. Because if you just jump in the Pacific Ocean, it's a great way to drown.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. And even the parties, even in the past that you've thrown, how did you get into doing that? Were you just you know what, I don't mind hosting, sure, let's do this. How does one just become comfortable? Because I want to give our listeners some resources in case any of them are hey, I'm thinking about hosting a party. How would I go about that? So what are some good practices?
We'll check out my course.
Yeah,
check out my workshop. It will help you determine if you're ready and if you really want to take that on. For me, when I'm excited about something, that's why I call myself a nerd. I go all in. I read everything. I go to everything. I find my people. And so my entry point into this space, exploring non-monogamy, the sex positive world, was actually a play party. And it was such a positive, confirming experience for me that I was like, oh yeah, this is my space. These are my people. I want to see what else is there. And when I'm interested, I go all in. So, I let the organizers know hey, I've got resources. How can I be involved? Can I help a host? Can I host? Can I how do I go more? And, curiosity. Again, curiosity to me, I was raised with a lot of fear as a child. And to me, finding curiosity and doing my best to live from curiosity, I consider curiosity the antidote to fear. And that has really served me to have a very fulfilling, robust, and enjoyable life for the most part. And so that's kind of where that comes from, of oh, I like this. I wonder what else I like here.
Yeah.
How else can I be involved? What else can I do? And I learned too that I really loved early in my journey, I really loved bringing people to their first party, because my first party was such an incredible positive experience that I wanted to, do that for others. But then as the years went by, I realized I keep bringing people to their first party and I keep having kind of the same experiences over. I also want to grow. I want to have new experiences. And so that's when I realized if I host, I'm welcoming a bunch of people into the space and I'm getting that same fulfillment without necessarily having to limit myself to being on a date with a new person or new people. That makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, so there's like a stigma too that I've been hearing, like, that some couples will kind of like, use like E&M to kind of solve relationship problems or to even just keep somebody on the hook. Like, oh, I don't want to lose this person, but they really wanted to like open things up. So I guess I'll be okay with it because I don't want to lose them. So I guess kind of like, like what are your thoughts about that, about people that use E&M as a middle ground or whatever, as a compromise?
Very similar to how people try to use kids to save a relationship.
Yeah.
How's that working out?
Right. Don't do it. Exactly. Exactly.
Nah. I like to say it this way. Non-monogamy can't save your marriage, but it could save your divorce. So what I mean by that is, again, we're taught that it's either you're together, all in, or break up. Done. It has to be this horrible, messy, like divorce thing. There's so many options. There's so many kinds of ingredients involved in creating a relationship. And so if, maybe, you guys aren't having sex anymore, you're not interested in each other in that way, but you are great co-parents and you live really well together. Why do you have to give those elements up just because you're not having sex?
Right. Yeah.
Those are separate components to a relationship. This just means your relationship agreement needs to be renegotiated in certain areas. So understanding that it's not this all or nothing thing, it is uncomfortable because we're not taught, we don't have coping skills for this naturally because we're taught the opposite. But if you can really cultivate the ability to hold that discomfort, it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's not the same thing as unsafe. Being uncomfortable, that's where we're growing. So if I can be uncomfortable and get through this sort of, social script that if, X plus Y equals Z, and go, oh, actually, I can keep the things that I love that are working for me if I release the things that aren't working for me and stay open to what might be possible on the other side of that. You can be married and co-parent and all that stuff and have other lovers and it's all about the agreements you create together consensually.
Yeah. It all goes back to that communication, like you were saying earlier. Yeah.
But it doesn't fix anything that isn't being addressed directly. So using, E&M as an escape or a way to avoid something that needs to be looked at in your core relationship is not advisable. Yeah. Look at that. And you know what? It may be an impasse of, I'm not really interested in sex anymore. And you are, okay, now what? And negotiating that. There are, incompatibilities that this can help with, but not as a way to avoid actually addressing them.
Right, for sure. And are there any other misconceptions about E&M?
Just a few.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, is the short answer. Would you like a couple?
Yeah. Educate these listeners. Educate us all.
Yeah. Well, we actually already touched on one that's a pretty common one. The idea that, polyamorous people don't get jealous or like, oh, I could never do non-monogamy. I'm a jealous person. I'm too jealous. Like, okay, that doesn't stop you. Jealousy is an untapped resource for personal growth. It is, if you make it your BFF, it will help you understand yourself at a depth. It will help you strengthen your relationship when you start using it as a tool. You can use it as a bid for connection rather than a divider or, something to be punished or avoided. It's not necessary to avoid jealousy. In fact, I advise the opposite. Lean in. You're noticing jealousy, get curious. I have a ton of content on my YouTube all about, the 4 different kinds of romantic jealousy, plus retroactive jealousy, which is about the past, how to use it. I have a whole jealousy toolkit on my website. It's a big topic. So that's one of them. Another one is, non-monogamy. It's all about sex. Not necessarily. It can be. Sometimes people have a high need for sexual novelty, but they like having that one core emotional partner. Okay. That's why having these conversations are important, understanding your needs. What I call your hierarchy of exclusivity for your sexual needs and your emotional needs. 2 different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some people want more, love more. Just like we said, polyamory, more love. So having multiple emotional connections, intimate connections. It's not just necessarily about sex. And if it is for someone, that's okay, as long as you're clear about it and you make sure that the people you're connecting with are on the same page. Let's see, what's another one? That it's, for avoidance, it's, not committed and all that stuff.
Oh,
Like we
yeah,
talked about
yeah.
earlier, is not a synonym for casual dating. You can have a committed non-monogamous relationship or a monogamous relationship, just like you can have an uncommitted monogamous relationship or an uncommitted non-monogamous relationship. It's just all about the agreements at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So there you all go. You like all these different, resources, and even just the facts that Allie's bringing here is literally like, I'm hoping that is making an impact and changing how, some of you may be approaching it or the thoughts that you have on it. So no, that's really good call outs.
Oh, and you brought up, actually, I don't want to let this slip by
Yeah,
because
go
you
for it.
used an important word too. So we'll touch on this. I'll give you a little
Ooh,
bonus.
what did I do?
Little
I'm in
bonus.
trouble. No, I'm just kidding.
B is for bonus and B is for boundaries. It's not a free for all. That's another big misconception. Oh, non-monogamy.
Yes.
Now we can do whatever,
Yes.
whatever we want. Don't have to talk about it. It's just, whatever. No. Boundaries give us freedom. We talked a little bit earlier about the difference between boundaries and controlling behavior. So really coming to understand what your needs are in partnership so that you can make sure you're building a relationship that supports that. Boundaries, there's this great quote by Prentice Hemphill. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and myself simultaneously. It's where we meet. The way I describe boundaries is boundaries are the edges of your comfort zone. Now, I'm a coach, so I want to help people grow. So to me, the edges of your comfort zone are designed to be pushed consensually and in a safe environment. And ideally, your relationships are safe environments for you to get a little bit uncomfortable. And that is where you're growing. Yeah. That is when you're going a little beyond what you've gone before. And you might find, you know what? That's not for me. Okay. Understanding yourself, understanding your needs helps you create those agreements, which are your relationship. So that's why I advise really, even if you're monogamous, to create an actual relationship agreement. And this is literally, again, nerding out. This is a literal document that you create, and it has, all these sections, co-parenting, communication, safer sex practices, nesting agreements, like if you live together, all the different components that make up your relationship, and you work those out together on paper or, Google Drive or whatever, some document that you can actually refer to, because part of that agreement is reviewing it and renewing it, because your relationship is growing just like you are. Your boundaries are going to shift and change. You're going to want to touch on different things and maybe change things a little bit over time. But now you have guideposts. You have this relationship agreement that is supporting you as you explore, as you grow, as you build this thing called a relationship together.
Yeah. No, this is really good. And like, let's say I'm somebody who's like, hey, Allie, I'm one of your clients. And I'm like, hey, Allie, like, I really want to explore this, but like, I have like friends and family that are like judgmental, but I'm afraid to like even explore that route because of like what my family or network of people are going to think of me. Mm-hmm. Like how, like, I guess, how can someone kind of, I guess overcome like those fears and like those obstacles? Cause like even just what we were talking about earlier, it's still such a taboo kind of like topic these days.
Mm-hmm. Well, first and foremost, you're not alone in that feeling. It's I use the term coming out because it's very, similar. It's that reveal of your true intention or your true expression, I should say, into a space that is not necessarily welcoming, supportive, or safe potentially for that. Those are very real concerns. Acknowledge them. It's okay. It's normal to have those concerns. And then reflect on whose life are you living? You don't owe anyone anything. You don't have to be out with people that you don't feel comfortable being out with. It's advice I give people that are dating who are maybe at different points in their coming out journey. You don't ever have to come out. This can be your private life that's private for your whole life. That's also okay if you're choosing that. We don't get to tell our partners to come out. We don't get to out our partners. If I'm somebody, like I said, I'm as out as you can be at this point. I know who I am. I know how I move through the world. I'm human. So when people are mean, it hurts my feelings, but it doesn't stop me. It doesn't derail me. But when you're newer, it can feel a lot bigger and a lot scarier. So if you are someone who's very out and you're dating someone who isn't, you don't get to push them into doing that. If you're going to be with somebody, you need to be okay being with somebody who's not out. And I think the biggest takeaway really for that is, again, you don't owe anyone anything.
Yeah.
You might be out with your closest friends, but not at work, or, at work, but not at home, or like with your family. You get to decide that. This is your life.
Just for like the listeners and like and the viewers to kind of know, your brand, Passport to Pleasure, like where, you're providing like so many necessary, tools and skills for people that, want to position themselves to, for success in this environment. And so can you kind of just, tell us like more about it? Like, the courses and everything, how people can get involved, just tell us all.
I'll try and summarize the best I can. Like I said, it's a educational resource specifically for relationship skills and knowledge. There are, all kinds of different PDFs, tools, things like the jealousy toolkit I mentioned earlier, a few different conversation templates if you're looking to open your relationship or maybe close your relationship. There are a 2-day intimate itinerary that I've created if you're just looking to deepen your own intimacy in your relationship. You just want to have a little sexy staycation. All kinds of resources. The big one is my course. That's the most comprehensive resource I offer. It's called ENM 101, Exploring Healthy Non-Monogamy. And it's called that specifically. It's not called Jumping In and Becoming Non-Monogamous 101.
Right.
It's called Exploring Healthy Non-Monogamy, learning more about something. Taking my course does not make you non-monogamous. It makes you more educated about non-monogamy. So the big takeaways from that course that I'm so happy to be able to provide in this context is helping people understand not only the landscape, all the different relationship structures that are out there, dispelling all the myths, et cetera, but really helping people figure out their hierarchy of exclusivity when it comes to their sexual or physical needs and their emotional or romantic needs. Because when you understand your levels of exclusivity in those areas, you can help determine your IRS, your ideal relationship structure. And if you're going through this course with a partner, you will each determine those things, and you may have the same one and you may have different ones, but that's okay because you can find a meeting point to at least start. This gives you, again, that guide rail of how to begin if you're interested in exploring. And the next most important takeaway, once you have that IRS, is the course walks you through building what we touched on earlier, your relationship agreement. This is a fully customized for you, for your relationship structure, agreement that you create with your partner about all those different dynamics that come to make up your relationship. And it's something that you'll review and renew regularly, but you will walk away from this course knowing exactly what relationship orientation you have, how to build that relationship structure, and you will have that relationship agreement that supports it.
Love that. Go all the way the fuck off.
Full ass.
Right, full ass. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, can you do me a really quick favor? Can you please rate and review this podcast? Like hit that 5-star review because, and I do read all the reviews because this helps me know how this podcast is helping others and how, this podcast is serving you, because my job as a host is to serve you this podcast the way that you would prefer it to be. I have, some listener submissions and, for our little hinge or unhinged segment. And I think these are pretty good. Are you ready to dive into this?
I am. Can I share a little nerd nugget before we dive in?
Absolutely.
It's a little, again, love me some language, some nerdy words. So hinge is a term you'll hear in non-monogamy, a hinge partner. And what that means is when there are 3 people connected, but not necessarily all dating each other. So you have 3 people. You might have the person here who's dating these 2 people, but these 2 people aren't dating each other. This person here who's dating both of them is the hinge partner. So that's how they're connecting those 2 people, even though they're not dating each other. The hinge partner is their connective tissue.
So I love that.
The more you know. But let's dive in.
Yes, love it. All right. So this first one says, I'm convinced that no one in LA, no one wants to fall in love in LA. Is this hinged or unhinged?
I am always wary. listen to my wording. I am always wary when people speak in absolutes.
Yeah.
So the no one, always, never. That is at least an orange flag, because that just tells me kind of how they view the world. It's very shorthand. It's very all or nothing. That would make me a little reticent to maybe proceed.
Yeah, I agree. This person definitely seems, like jaded. So
that's the story they're telling. I'm not going to convince them otherwise. So let me go elsewhere.
Exactly. It's kind of like what I was saying earlier, like when it was like the rumors that I was hearing, like, oh yeah, people don't want to date in LA because they're pursuing their content creator dreams or whatever. No, but yeah, I agree. This one's unhinged. Okay, so this next one says, I'm looking for my future ex-husband. This one just threw me. This is hilarious. It's unhinged, but
it's, you know what? It's clear. I will give them that. It is very clear. Good luck. It's funny. It's funny though. I'll give it that.
like to the person that submitted this one, I'm wondering, like the person's profile that you saw this on, like, did they have any other red flags or whatever that kind of just said no, don't do it or whatever? But I don't know.
That's the funny thing about red flags. There generally isn't just one. It's like Pringles. You can't just stop at one.
Exactly. This last one says, I'm looking for, okay, so we're going to read out like the heart emoji.
Hieroglyphics here. Okay.
Exactly. I'm looking for a heart emoji, an eggplant emoji, a ring, a house, and like a family emoji. So basically what they're saying is, I'm looking for love, dick, marriage, and a house and a family in that order.
In that order. That's called the relationship escalator. Yes. Things proceed like this. We go on a date. We become exclusive. We get engaged. We live together. We have the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Are you having fun? Do you know each other? Are you just looking for that next step? Are you actually looking to get to know someone?
Yeah.
And grow together and get curious. Like, again, clear, but I'd be questioning, like, is that what you're looking for? Or is that what you've been told you're supposed to have?
Right.
Not the same thing.
Yeah. So this one's definitely like a yellow flag, orange flag, like, because it's like, I get that you wanted it, like that this person, like the profile that they saw this on, that they want this, obviously. I get it. They're communicating that. But, I hope that they're not so, what do you call it? Just kind of just like constructed to that. Like, it has to happen in this order or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm seeing somebody too who's really looking for the security from the structure of the relationship. Like, oh, we're married now, so we're fine. We're good. Mm-hmm. I got the thing. But that's not where security comes from in relationships. Yeah. It's about the quality of the relationship. It's not what label you have. A ring don't mean jack shit other than you got a nice piece of jewelry. Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that, whatever this person finds, I hope you find it, but don't put the pressure on the other person that you're seeing or whatever to get them to fall in line in your ultimate goal or whatever. But yeah. Yeah.
got a note. I don't think we had any green flags.
Yeah.
What's going on, y'all?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What happened to the hinge ones?
Yeah, green's my favorite color. Come on.
Right. But yeah, I appreciate you all, sharing those submissions. Those were pretty good.
Those are solid.
Thank you so much again to the listeners for submitting those prompts. We love that. Definitely a good laugh. There's, dating on the apps is complex. I get it. I hope you all are taking care of yourselves and, doing the best you can. So, Allie, I want to say thank you so much for, being here and doing this with us.
My pleasure. I love talking about this. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Can you let our listeners know how they can get in touch, with you and Passport to Pleasure, how they can become a client? Tell us all where to find you, the socials, all that.
Absolutely. I'm pretty easy to find. Again, Passport to Pleasure, Passport, the number 2, pleasure.com on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Substack, YouTube. I create tons of free content on YouTube and Substack. That would be the greatest way to find me. Or you can go to my website, which is passport, the number 2 pleasure.com. And you can actually, by signing up for my newsletter, you get one of my free tools called the Relationship Ratio. And this is something you can do with your partner that walks you through a little exercise to see if your relationship is even ready to start exploring or learning about consensual non-monogamy.
You got the resources. She's got all these great guides for you. So I hope you do take advantage of that.
Yeah. Yeah, you can learn how to open up without blowing up.
I love that. That's a t-shirt too.
We'll get it on.
Right? So yeah, if you're in a plane, a train, a bus, a car, a boat, whatever, you could be one of Allie's, like current clients. You could take SITUASEANS podcast with you wherever you go. And we're everywhere. So make sure to follow, leave a comment, like, review, subscribe, all that good shit. We love it. We love you. And with that, I will see you all back here for the next episode in a couple of weeks. Woo!